The bug was very simple. They launched it. I saw the news after an hour and I started looking at the APIs, and within 5 minutes, I found a bug which allowed me to post from anyone's profile to anyone in the world.
Yeah.
I think they ended up paying me $12,500 for that bug for like 5 minutes. So I feel like this is going to help them build a product and also like maybe think bigger. Right?
Absolutely.
If I can do it from a small random village in India, then everybody could do it. Right? You just need passion. People used to ask me what would happen if this fails. And I always used to, I have said this statement to a couple of people that I have nothing to lose.
Hi Anand, welcome to the Be Fearless podcast.
Thank you so much for having me here.
So Anand, you and I, kind of go back a very long time in very unique intertwined ways. But just to kind of go all the way back, can you tell us a little bit about how you got started in cybersecurity? How did your interest come and how it, all happened?
Yeah, so this goes long back in 2008. So I was in, like in India, there is a thing called IIT JEE, right?
Correct.
And you are an IITian, so right? Yeah. So I went to Kota for studying IIT JEE, and I was in one of the institutes. There are so many students out there, right? And at that point in time, we used to had Orkut. Right. Orkut, the social media platform.
Correct.
So I used to go to cyber cafes to browse Orkut or to maybe play Counter-Strike.
Okay, nice.
Right? Right? So one day I got to know about this term called hacking and then phishing. Okay. So I Googled how to hack Orkut account, and couple of steps came in, and I tried that on few of my friends. Posted it as a scrap or something, and they entered their username and password. And I was like, shit, how can this happen? Right? That was the first point when I got interested into security. Right? And I think that was a life-changing moment for me. Right.
Yeah.
I was having no technical background. I just followed some steps like a script kiddie, and it happened.
And I think, interestingly, almost everybody starts a little bit like that.
Yeah.
Because when you're starting, you absolutely have no idea, no knowledge, no baseline.
Yeah.
So the only thing you can do is try some steps out and see if it is exciting.
Yes.
And then once the excitement kicks in,
yes.
Then you want to learn more, do more. Because, now you get so much attention from people. Oh, can you do this? Can you do that?
Yeah. So I agree with you. So hacking in general is a word which creates like a lot of excitement.
Right.
And if you look at my social media inbox or maybe yours too, right? We would find people reaching out to us to asking them to hack their boyfriend or girlfriend's account all the time. Right? So that's very exciting. But I spent there 2 years. I couldn't get in IIT JEE like you. But I joined VIT with VIT Vellore.
Right.
I was in the Chennai campus. I was there for 4 years, and in first year of college I got this bug in my mind, right? The word called hacking. So I was more like, what should I do next? And that's when I stumbled upon your page.
Okay.
It had close to 100 likes.
Okay,
and
nice.
It was called SecurityTube.
SecurityTube.net.
SecurityTube.net. And because I am sharing this maybe backstory for the first time. The reason I did that was in our college, we only had like 2 GB per month kind of a limit on Wi-Fi.
Okay.
And I was like, I need to bypass this.
Yeah.
Right? 2 GB is too less.
Nothing,
Yeah, right. So I was searching for Google, like how to hack Wi-Fi and stuff. Yeah. And your channel came in. Okay. And there were so many videos around Wi-Fi hacking. Right? And that prompted me to install Backtrack.
Oh,
in my system.
Back in the nice, very nice.
And then aircrack NG and couple of other tools, right? So that was also another life-changing moment, because honestly, if you look at the resources which were available at that point in time, they were very less in 2010, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
correct. And to your point, because almost like 7 to 8 years back when I had started like in cybersecurity, I felt the same. There weren't good resources. There were no practical resources. So what had prompted me to put securitytube.net was, unbelievably, it was almost like I was creating videos to do my own revision. Because you learn so many new things and you tend to forget. But when you learned it then, you quickly want to put something. And I didn't want to sit down and write a long blog post. And I just thought I could just make a video. And I shared it with some people in the company I used to work for at that time, Airtight Networks in Pune. And they said, hey, you have a knack for teaching. So then I said, why don't I just put it up online and see what happens? But it's incredible. I mean, very unusually, that's how, our paths kind of crossed, where even before we had met each other.
Yeah. So I feel like probably whoever started into security at that point in time, they would have watched your videos.
Probably, but
yeah. So then in 2013, I stumbled upon a tweet. I was reading all this. I stumbled upon a tweet from a security researcher saying how he found bugs in Facebook.
Right.
And got $500 for it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I had some loans to pay off, right? And I was more like, why should I not do it? Right. And ethically report vulnerabilities to company and get rewarded by them. And you also get a recognition, which is the most critical part, right?
Absolutely.
So I chose to be what we call white hat hacker at that point in time. I was always a white hat.
White hat, yeah.
Yeah, you can call that Orkut thing, but I was always a white hat. And then I tried for 6 months in 2013. Ended up finding my first bug in Facebook.
Okay, fantastic.
Got into their white hat list.
Yeah.
And life-changing moment.
And I remember that, you compounded on that bug bounty hunting, where you eventually became like India's top bug bounty hunter. I think, where I think I remember some reports where you made close to 1 crore or 1 million. I forget that, right? Like just doing bug bounty hunting. Yeah. Remember some news article?
Yeah. So that was out somehow, I don't know. Right. But when I found this bug, I was more like I should find it in every other company, because hacking was more like a passion.
Correct.
And indirectly I was getting this sense, though I'm doing it for money, but at the end of the day I'm helping secure companies, like billions of user data which is out there.
Yeah.
So then I ended up finding things like I could have logged in into any Facebook account.
Yeah.
I could have logged in into any Tinder account. Yeah. I'm not sure if you use Tinder yet.
No. My time it wasn't there. I was forced to, hunt around via common contacts to meet people.
Yeah. Then there was another one, like using Uber to ride for free, eat for free, compromising login into any Uber account, compromise any Twitter account and tweet from your Twitter account.
Is it? Okay, fantastic.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but by finding these bugs, what I mean is I got this idea that these bugs could impact people if these are like in wrong hands or something.
Absolutely.
And being top 3, top 4 security researchers on the bounty program of these companies.
Right.
At that point in time.
Right.
Yeah.
Amazing journey. And tell me, during those bug bounty, hunting days, actively, like, how were you going ahead and like learning, researching? Because, most of the time when you're especially doing black box based testing, it is kind of non-trivial and requires a massive amount of patience and, constant trying, right? Like, so was there like any interesting technique, or like, I would say any interesting philosophy that you used overall, like during those days?
Yes, there are a couple of them. So I kind of always used to think like an attacker. And I knew that companies, they end up prioritizing their public facing apps, which are accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
But then I also knew that internally companies have other apps which are publicly accessible but have different level of access.
Okay.
Right? You can't easily get access to them.
Right.
For example, like Uber driver app. So I kind of registered myself as a driver on Uber app to get access to that, and then I ended up finding very critical bugs on Uber driver app.
Interesting. That's a
Right?
very smart way to.
Yeah.
Because those apps, because most people don't touch.
Yes.
So it hasn't gone through that rigorous cycle of,
Yes.
bug finding and fixing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then there were other things which I used to do. For example, I used to closely monitor newsroom of all these bigger companies, what they are launching new. And I always knew that I only need to find a bug, only one bug, right, in that specific feature, which is like newly launched. And this was very, one of the example
nice.
was Facebook launched something called Thanks. So I could post video from my account to your account saying thanks and a video and a message. So the bug was very simple. They launched it. I saw the news after an hour and I started looking at the APIs, and within 5 minutes, I found a bug which allowed me to post from anyone's profile to anyone in the world.
Okay, yeah.
I think they ended up paying me $12,500 for that bug for like 5 minutes.
Yeah. And this was time you were still at the college, just passed out, or like still at college?
I was in college, like just passed out from college.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, crazy. And now that you mentioned one bug, which was your most memorable bug where you actually felt like, oh, this was crazy, interesting, amazing, or go for it.
Yeah, so I feel that was the most famous. I think the bug that went very viral.
You just mentioned the one.
Facebook brute force issue.
Okay.
So very weird bug. So no, I would never imagine that bug could ever exist on Facebook.
Okay.
Very weird bug. So if I go to facebook.com and you forgot your password, right? You enter your email address or phone number or maybe your username.
Yeah.
And then they share a 6-digit OTP to your
phone.
to your phone or email address. So the thing was, I tried that on the main Facebook site, and I was blocked after a couple of attempts. But then they had domains like our.intern.facebook.com, beta.facebook.com, which were using like production database, right?
Okay.
And I knew from everyone would know, right? There are other domains.
Right.
So I tried the exact same thing on those domains, and there was no limit.
There's no rate limiting. Okay.
No rate limiting on OTP.
Crazy.
It was a funny thing because I never expected this, that I would never look out for that bug.
Correct.
Normally.
Because you're almost thinking the same API is there across Facebook.
Yes.
Why would there be any other, API front?
Yes.
And at that time, I'm guessing, with you finding so many bugs, being all over the news about all of this, so many companies would probably have approached you saying, hey, Anand, we want to hire you full time, come join us. So why, and it's a natural allure for anybody to say, okay, you know what, like now let me go join one of these companies. But instead you took a very different path. And I think, you started off on, building your first company, right? Like where you were doing different. So tell me a little bit about that. And like, why did you not? Like, everybody's talking about bugs you're discovering.
Yeah. So honestly, like my bugs, they started becoming famous in 2016, but there was another struggle which I had.
Okay.
So I was passing out from college in 2014.
Yeah.
And my pointers were low. My grade were low.
Okay.
And I had 2 backs.
Okay.
Two backs during the college time because I was so much interested into hacking. So I always spent time into hacking and gave like maybe lesser priority to the academics. So I'm not saying that you should give, not give.
Yeah, I would always say, look, the best thing is if you find your calling in life and what you're passionate about. And I think sometimes it's absolutely fine that you can completely ignore the rest. And I'm a big believer of that, by the way.
Okay.
So I'm a big believer.
So this happened, then I was not allowed to sit in majority of the placements.
Okay.
And seeing my like family background, we do farming. I was the eldest brother, right? And I had spent so much money, like hard-earned money, right? It's very difficult at my place. So I was bit very scared inside. Like what will I do if I don't get placed?
Correct.
So that's where this idea came to me.
Okay.
That this was in 2014. Like Flipkart came to our campus like very early on.
Yeah.
And they were mostly hiring for software developers at that point in time.
Right.
And you know my great story, right?
Yeah.
So what I started doing is I started finding bugs in Flipkart.
Okay. Before they came on campus.
Yeah, like in 2014 when I
Right.
got to know that there is something called Flipkart.
Okay.
And I found like so many bugs in Flipkart at that point in time because they were very early, right?
Correct.
And I started reporting ethically to the
Responsible
people.
disclosure, okay.
To the they were. I don't think they were having formal responsible disclosure, but I reached out to some of the folks that I have found a bug. I am a student and I would like to ethically report it.
Right.
Right. I don't want to cause any harm. That's not my intention.
Yeah.
Right. I just test it. I send it out to them. So I found like so many bugs in Flipkart at that point
It's
in
very
time.
smart.
And
Yeah.
in the end, they asked me like, what do you want in, why are you helping us out and all that? And I was like, I need an internship.
Okay.
I'm okay with an unpaid internship,
Nice.
but I need an internship. And if I thought in mind, maybe I would perform well and end up getting a full-time
Yeah.
job, right? And that eventually happened.
Okay,
So they ended
fantastic.
up offering me an internship, right? Off campus,
Okay.
no on campus. They had to make an exception. And Flipkart, like always, used to value talent a lot.
Even in the early
That was
days.
in their DNA.
Yeah.
So they offered me this internship and I got this internship. It got converted to full time.
Yeah.
Then while I was working with Flipkart, I used to always find these bugs. And
Okay.
they were never like you stop doing it or something like that.
Got it.
Right.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So in a way, you kind of hacked your way, into both an internship and your first job, and which is honestly, I mean, these are inspiring things for younger folks to know, because there are so many times, people talk about and say, oh, you know what, like I probably didn't score some grades.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they tend to use that as some kind of shield
Yes.
and say, okay, that hence nothing else happened.
Yes.
But I think this is very inspirational, where
Yes.
in a way you figured like, hey, let's use my greatest strength, which is this ability to find bugs and break into systems, and use that to show value to prospective, companies who are coming to campus to hire.
Yeah.
And so they already know what unique advantage they get if, Anand were to be on board.
Yeah.
So, I think amazing.
I always took these things as challenges and always had this mindset of solving problems.
Right.
So I found a problem, but I would stick to that problem for a couple of months, and in the end, I would end up finding a solution.
And you bring up a very good point, and this is my thesis as well, is if you're a very good security researcher, then by definition you have to have a massive amount of patience and persistence.
Yes.
And incredibly, these are also two great qualities you need to have if you want to become an entrepreneur.
Yes.
Right? Because as an entrepreneur, literally most things will break, most things won't work. And in a way, you're also trying to brute force, your way to success, your way to figuring out, how to get to things. Eventually, you can work and all of that. So that is really where I always draw this commonality, and I ask myself, like, we as security researchers, hackers, we found vulnerabilities, and then this change story to entrepreneurship. So, which kind of brings me to the next question. So, okay, you are at Flipkart. You are greatly valued over there. You're finding all of these bugs, in the best brands in the world. Everybody's talking about you. But then what made you kind of then take a leap and say, I want to do my own thing?
The security industry.
Security industry. Okay, elaborate on that.
Yeah. So I was doing pen testing, infra testing, everything at Flipkart, right? We were a very small team and everyone was so passionate.
Yeah.
A very open culture, right? It was a fun thing.
Yeah.
But then at one day I saw that couple of startups are coming in India, startup industries,
Right.
trying to go in a different direction in India, right? And I felt that when initially I started doing bounties for paying off loans, but then I thought that I had to, it's my responsibility to secure data first, right? That's what I thought. Then I got this another thing in mind that I should also secure data of these startups because these startups could become like very bigger. And if I feel like if they get breached now, they would have a significant impact in future. Right. So way early thought into
it's a nice smart thought, to be honest. And you know, if you got in early and they grow bigger, they always keep working with you.
And I got this thought in probably around March 2016. And then in May 2016, I left the company to start a pen testing, red teaming kind of a company called AppSecure. So
nice. And this was you alone, fast. Basically just you as an individual.
Me and my brother. So
Nice.
My younger brother. So I got this chance. And I was always like super quick in my decisions, and you could see we have been chatting about my Pingsafe journey as well, right? And we used to discuss like how fast we can take these decisions, right? So it took me like 2-3 months to just figure out because I had to convince my family because they don't like me leaving a good paying job, right? So then they don't consider bug bounty as a job. That's the problem. So it took me 3 months. I started this company called AppSecure because of my intention of securing the startups which are out there, right? And it took me like 3 years. I spent 3 years. Initially, no one used to care about data breaches in general because every startup, right, they wanted to build, get customers fast, get to scale fast. Security was not a primary concern. It was always like afterthought. Still true, right? In most of the cases. So I thought I am going to change it. Hard problem.
I can't change like people's mentality and how they think.
So I spent 3 years building that company. We got close to 150 plus companies. We had all technical people. We were having zero sales, no marketing, not even a LinkedIn page at that point in time, right? And all like word of mouth because we just used to hack companies by signing like NDAs or agreements with them. So I spent 3 years there, but then I realized one day that every of these companies were using like cloud, AWS, GCP, Azure, right? They were using these cloud providers. And these companies were mistakenly doing some misconfiguration change, and that was opening up their MongoDB to public without authentication.
Or S3,
S3 open to public, like very basic. This was in 2016, 17, 18.
I think everybody started adopting the cloud, and people didn't understand they are shared responsibility in security. Opening to all these misconfigs. And I had this background of exploiting bugs, right, from my bug bounty journey. So I looked at some of the products which were out there. I suggested companies that you start using those products, the open source ones and whatever existed at that point in time. And they were like, no one used to work. They were mostly focusing on compliance, very, very noisy, right? It's still the case. It's not like it's not the case right now, but they were very noisy. So I thought that maybe another idea came in. Maybe I should build a cloud security company with attackers' perspective as a first thought. Like what would an attacker exploit if they see your cloud from outside? And I got this idea that maybe I connect entire cloud dots using my product, get more intel from inside the company, and I use that to pen test or maybe give more real critical findings to the companies. And I realized this while I was finding bugs for these bigger companies because everyone was having same problems multiple times. I think you bring up a very good point, right? Which is the best companies get built when you've had the time to like interact with potential customers and all of that, long time before that. Which was possible because you were running, your pen testing, bug bounting company, which was already, working with 100, 150 people. And that gave you that unique insight that, look,
Yes.
everybody is migrating to the cloud.
Yes.
And unfortunately, they fully don't understand cloud security.
Yes.
And there are so many, kind of like easy wins that we can help them park if we were able to scan their infrastructure and find all of this.
Yeah.
So take us from there, that is the inception of the company. From there till, I think, when our paths like formally crossed was when Sequoia Capital invested.
Yes.
So, but what happened between that journey? Like, you started and, you meeting Sequoia, if you can like fill that blank.
So, that's another funny story.
Yeah.
So, Sequoia had this program called Perks, right?
Okay, interesting.
Sequoia Perks,
Yeah.
where you could fill in the form. And if you run a company, you fill in the form, and you could offer like discounts to Sequoia companies.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
So it still exists.
Yeah.
And so I launched Pingsafe, right? In somewhere around in 2020 end or something.
Okay.
And then I was more like, I want to get listed in Sequoia Perks because there was a Twitter tweet about it.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's when I reached out to Gaurav.
Okay.
Who is co-founder and CTO at 1MG, because I was not getting response
from Sequoia
after filling the form.
Okay, interesting.
And then he introed me to Roy.
Yeah.
And then I got introed to you immediately. Right?
Yeah.
So funny story, right? My intention was to basically get into those perks so that I'm able to increase my revenue. Correct. I always had this thing in mind that I want to get more revenue than funding. Funding was a bit secondary kind of thought for me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how people take it.
Yeah.
But mine was more like, I need to get revenue.
100%.
And that was the reason we ended up growing so fast. In like 18 to 20 months, our revenue grows so fast because entire company was focused into getting revenue customers.
Makes sense.
Funding was always like afterthought. My thought was like, if we are able to get revenue, we'll get funding.
It's like cause and effect.
Yeah.
And then when you met Roy, I mean, the interesting part is Roy is a common, kind of figurehead in both our kind of lives. So, interestingly, when Pentester Academy, exact same thought, just focused on revenue, kind of grew it up.
Yes.
Very end, we met Roy as well. Incredible guy, very, very supportive.
Yes.
Probably the best person in Sequoia SEA. Go ahead.
Yeah. He's the investors I met who was like, who understands deep tech.
Correct. Within internally. And I would say also a very fantastically supportive person.
Yeah.
A very nice human being. Not always, something you find in the VC community.
Yes.
But okay, so you met Roy and,
I got very positive feelings after meeting Roy. And in calls, I remember in the calls, he was like, this can become very useful for companies. Let's do it.
Yeah.
That's the common word he would use always. Let's do it.
Yeah. I mean, he has a very high energy coefficient. So anytime that you end up meeting Roy and you walk out, you'll always feel more energized.
Correct.
And incredibly, that was the time I can tell you, like Roy messaged me. So I had, I think, sold Pentester Academy and I was taking a bit of a break.
Yes.
And at that point, Roy messaged and said, hey, I want you to talk to Anand from Pingsafe. He mentioned that he's used some of your stuff before.
Yes.
And then, we spoke. I mean, I really liked you. I mean, what I always tell folks is, hey, you're one of the most humble folks. Always very, very nice, very, very sweet, to kind of talk to. Always, very helpful, kind of very forwarding, when it kind of comes to all of that. And so I can tell you that Roy had, and maybe I told you before, but just on the podcast, Roy had said, hey, Vivek, maybe you should consider angel investing.
Yes.
And till then, I had never angel invested, right? I had never angel invested. And honestly, I had no intent as well, because in my mind, I was like, look, I'll help you anyway. And there was no need for me to have any form of, outcome out of it. But, then we met, we spoke and you said, and then I told Roy, I said, look, absolutely, I have no intent. But after I met Anand, I mean, like such a great guy, he's building something so amazing, he was talking about and so passionate. I said, hey, if I had to ever start angel investing, I said, this would probably be like the first great one because I like the founder so much.
Thank you.
And yeah, I mean, honestly, and that's always, because look, early stages, I mean, great ideas, great products, all of that is of course there. But, the real thing is, hey, how's the founder? Is it really fun talking to him? How much conviction does he have about the idea? And all of that. So yeah, I mean, one thing led to another, and I was happy to make that as my very first angel investment.
And I was so nervous when I spoke with you for the first time.
Yeah.
Because I always watched videos, and you played a significant role in my entire journey. But I was so like
yeah
nervous.
Yeah. So it's very amazing, and I tell this to Roy. I said, hey, thanks to you. Anand and I met, or else, I was, at that time, I'd already left India a while back. So there's no common place. I wasn't going to any conferences, in India or any other place. So it was very unusual, but sometimes, people come together, and, we've been great friends since, and I mean, like, learning so much from each other all the time. So yeah, so I mean, like, fast forwarding from there, now, you're part of the Sequoia portfolio. And you already have a couple of customers. So tell me a little bit about the journey from there to, hey, what were some interesting things which happened along the way, and finally kind of like leading to the 100 million plus. And I'm just quoting the public number. I know the private number because I'm an investor, but we'll just use the public number which is there based upon sources. What leading to the 100 million plus acquisition of Pingsafe. So fill us the details.
So first of all, like, coming from a small village in some part of India, right?
Yeah.
Where, like, I never thought I would build a company or sell the company or something like that.
Correct.
My intention was always to do what makes you passionate about.
Right.
Like, you wake up every day and you see that this is the thing that I would work on every day. That was like Pingsafe for me, right? The challenge for me.
Absolutely.
Not Pingsafe, the challenge, right? So I never thought I would sell the company or something, right? So, but honestly, like, when we were building the company, we always used to have these couple of philosophies. Like, we used to, like, experiment fast and fail fast, right? And also things like even everyone was always high on energy, right? So and the team was like super great. All the people that I had, they helped me build this very fast. I am like super thankful to all of them for, first of all, like, trusting me. I and Nishant were there, and then Somik, Reej, all these people from college came in my VIT, right? And they joined us as an interns. So I feel like trust is also an important journey where 100%. People trusted you, right? But then, like, Sequoia invested, and we were not having the funding issue. We started hiring at a faster speed, also started increasing our revenue at a faster speed, right? Okay. And Roy, Pushpak, Siddhant, I used to work with these three people, and they were like always helpful, right? Always guiding us. Do this, experiment this, right? But then the path, everything was going smooth, aggressive, right? We were very aggressive in our execution. But then we were introed by, I'm not sure if you know, Pramod Gosavi. He introed us to SentinelOne Ventures. So SentinelOne runs, it's a big fund, and where they invest in innovative cybersecurity companies. We got introed to the team. And we met the team because we honestly, like, as a founder, you always need to meet newer investors, right? And that's your job. Right? So I was doing that, and then we were close to our Series A. We were like, I was also planning my shift to US, as you are aware.
We were talking about it many times.
But then at some point in time, I have never spoken about this in public, but I felt that I have spent 6 years in building the company. In building like 2 companies. Maybe I started at 23 or 24, right? And now 30, right? So, right?
Time flies,
so I had family also. right? And the way I used to work, because in passion sometimes it's more like I start at like 8 a.m. and then you end up at like 1 a.m. or something.
Correct.
Or 12 p.m. most of the time.
Correct.
And it's very stressful.
Correct.
So I thought maybe I should take a break and spend maybe more time with my family. I have a 4.5-year-old son. And I ended up probably not spending that much time with him in between. So I thought maybe I spend time with them and maybe do something else.
And I think, and I don't know, I have so many conversations around all of this. And I totally agree with you is a lot of times that, once you've, run something well and you've built a great product, it makes sense a lot of times for founders to park that first great exit.
Yes.
Because of course, that completely changes your league.
Yes.
Completely changes your orbit.
Yes.
And now, anything else that you want to do post that becomes a lot more easier because you aren't worried about, the financial aspect, your family getting taken care of, your kids studying in the best places. And I feel to some extent, that is very empowering, right? Because, end of the day, as you said, if you're working for 12 to 16 hours, you go back home and you don't want to look back at home and say, okay, what did I actually do for them?
Yeah.
Because in a way, running a startup is bluntly put, a very selfish exercise.
Yes.
Right? Because we are just looking at it as founders and saying, look, this is an excellent idea. We are very passionate about it. We want everybody in the world to, look at this.
Yes.
But there is a big price, one pays.
There is a big price, for sure.
Because the only thing you can't buy is time. And that means if all that time goes here, there's a massive amount of time which isn't going in other things.
Yes.
Which number one, of course, is family.
Yeah. And I feel like if you are passionate about some problem, you could build that company even when you are 40 years old, 50 years old. It really doesn't matter.
Correct.
But as founders, you should be excited.
Absolutely.
Right? I saw that SentinelOne was, everyone started talking about AI like a couple of years, maybe 2 years back. Yeah. And they were doing AI since inception. Yeah. They were the next generation company when they were founded. Yeah. Right? And I met with founder, the team, everyone was so passionate. Right? And I saw the same energy. Exactly same energy. And I was like, this company is super innovative. Maybe if my team is also fast, right? And great. We club both the great people and they end up building my problem statement, the problem statement that I had for securing cloud data breaches at a faster speed. And our entire go-to-market is like super accelerated now. And this also gives me some time.
Correct. Right? And you bring up a very good point. I think the best thing is if finally the acquirer aligns with your vision. Yeah. And, you feel like your work is now getting compounded.
Yeah. And that's like company's top priority.
Exactly.
We got fully acquired in January and we launched the product in like May.
Oh, is
during
it?
RSA.
Okay. Yeah, I remember.
Yes.
Yeah. And now it's like already SentinelOne's customers are using it and benefiting from it. And, and to them, it's an entirely new product line. So, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So kind of tell me something. When the acquisition was happening, of course, there's a lot of stressful period and all of that. But finally, when everything happened, right? First generation entrepreneur, as you mentioned, very humble background, from a farming background where, you mentioning a remote village in Rajasthan, right? Near Jaipur, if I remember. No.
Near Hanumangarh.
Okay, near Hanumangarh, right?
Yeah.
From there, when the news hit, as I said, I'm just quoting the public number, is 100 million plus. How did that feel at that point in time?
I don't feel like there were any feelings. I'm still the same person.
Yeah, of course. But from a pure kind of crossing that massive chasm, which all of us first generation entrepreneurs, you've never seen that size of kind of success before in life. So
yeah. So for me, the success was more that we got a bigger mission now after merging with SentinelOne. But from money side, I never felt. Of course, it gives you freedom for your family. That was like always sticking in my mind that I'm doing something from past 6 years. Correct. But what if this thing fails?
Correct, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Always there is a 10% fear 100%. In all the thoughts.
90% startups fail.
I used to have these thoughts at some interval in time, right? And I won't sleep for maybe couple of hours because of those thoughts. So those
thoughts are no longer there.
No longer there. So that's a big thing. But what I feel like is the bigger thing here is, as you know, the Indian startup ecosystem, right?
Right.
Mostly like every other security company is doing services. Right. No one is building products. Very fewer companies who are building products. So I feel like this is going to help them build a product, and also like maybe think bigger. Right?
Absolutely.
If I can do it from a small random village in India, then everybody could do it. Right? You just need passion.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. I mean, of course, look, there's a lot more hard work and everything which goes in. I think, of course.
And you have a similar story.
Yeah. But, and you're right. I mean, so looking back, the most empowering thing in all of this is when you start from nothing. And then you yield something into existence.
Yes.
And eventually there is massive impact, right?
Yes.
You won't believe, yesterday night I was talking to a potential customer, this very big company in Canada. And I spoke to the gentleman like 50 minutes, understood everything. And at the very end he said, hey, by the way, I didn't want to mention, like, big fanboy moment. I've used your videos and I've learned your videos, right? So the impact, to your point, of what we do completely trumps, any other financial, kind of like outcome and success.
Yeah.
Which of course is always helpful in keeping things in a kind of good state when it comes to people we love and people we want to take care of.
Yeah. And also like the statement that you made, right? Nothing. Yeah. I had nothing in the beginning.
Correct.
So that was another point. Like, people used to ask me what would happen if this fails. Yeah. And I always used to, I have said this statement to a couple of people that I have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Because
True. When you start from, when you had nothing, then
near to nothing, right? Correct. So you have nothing to lose.
Correct. And I think that also is very empowering, because you know that, hey, what is the worst that can happen?
Yes. Yes.
No, fantastic. So, Anand, tell me, of course, this has been such a very long journey. What do you think about like the cybersecurity ecosystem, let's say based out of India? Like, what do you think can improve? What do you think is lacking? Given you built this entire success story, entirely there.
So I think the first and foremost problem is the services thing that we talked about. Like every other founder who wants to do something in India, they start with a services mindset first. I also did that.
Yeah.
But now the times have changed.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
You could do that in maybe 2010 or 2013 or 2012.
I went ahead and conducted trainings all over the world to make the money. Yeah.
Right? We did that. But even if you want to do that, I'm not saying you don't do that.
Yeah.
But you do that, use that money to maybe start a product company. Right?
Yeah.
So I feel like the product vision, the global perspective is completely lacking.
Yeah.
Like I feel like some of the founders, I see they are building something, but they are not really taking the global perspective.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a problem. They are building something completely different, which won't fit.
Yeah. No, you bring up a very good point. And going back, right, like even the early pen tester days, when we started, that was one of the first things that even I put out. And I said, hey, we want to be one of the best online training companies in the world. Not in Bombay, not in Maharashtra, not in India. Because to your point, finally, when somebody makes a decision to buy, they want the best in the world. Which means on day zero, if your outlook is global, and you're looking at the best companies in your segment or neighboring segments and saying, I want to build something better than that.
Yes.
The way you're building your company itself goes bad.
Yes.
Because now you're only looking at people and saying, okay, maybe I built something, couple it with my service.
Yes.
And that is good enough for the local ecosystem.
Yes.
Right.
Though we were building our company, but we were always like global
first. Yeah.
thinking.
I think that is important.
Yes.
And when it comes to the investor ecosystem, right? Like barring great folks like, Roy and Sequoia Capital Southeast Asia who are super helpful. The rest of the ecosystem, like, what do you think? I mean, I'm sure you've spoken to, many investors along the way. Were you disappointed? What did you feel like there was a lack of understanding of the space? I mean, what do you feel in there?
Yeah, I spoke to everyone, and that's when I said, right, Roy.
Yeah.
I found him super deep tech and right.
Yeah.
So, but I would like to say that I spoke to like almost all of them, and they were not really having.
Correct.
And that was one of my primary reasons for choosing Sequoia. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so I feel like that's a gap because even when we started, there were things like the market is very, very crowded.
Yeah.
All that very early on, very early on. Right.
Yeah.
And even security space is honestly a bit crowded. But if you are able to understand the problem well, right, I think that could be
eventually built.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree with you. I think the reason I attribute it to is, I mean, India, massive population, 1.5 billion people. Most of the startups tend to become consumer startups, catering to all of these people, either when it comes to shopping or shipping or whatnot. So I think still Indian companies are only slowly adopting deep tech products.
Yes.
And, to your point, cybersecurity is still like driven by compliance and a checkbox requirement.
Yes.
Rather than, a core Indian company coming and saying, I want to be secure.
Correct.
So I feel what tends to happen is, investors, when they are very focused on a specific local ecosystem,
Yes.
the only thing they can think about is, could a company be built which can cater to that ecosystem?
Yes.
And there haven't been too many large successes,
Correct.
From that ecosystem which have been building global tech.
Yeah.
Which further kind of creates this whole problem that investors themselves don't have exposure.
Yes.
So, I mean, to your point, that is really where, Roy, Shailendra, Rajan, all the other good folks at Sequoia, what I loved in my interaction with them was also the fact that they were very open.
Yes.
They are always very big picture, wanted to go behind big ideas and all of that. And it was a breath of fresh air compared to many of the others.
I agree. And I think that's when I took this decision.
Yeah. It's been amazing knowing you. And once again, was super, super fortunate. And at the very same time, thank you for allowing me in to be an angel investor in your company.
No, thank you so much for like trusting us.
Absolutely.
And that's like super. And thank you for creating those videos. I think those videos changed a lot of people's lives.
Yeah, no, thank you for the kind words. And again, wish you all the best.
Thank you.
And we'll have you once again in the podcast as time rolls on to see what else Anand thinks about and what else is he up to. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.